Hello, and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I'm Tim Brooks with Worldwide Technology, and we are partnering with CDO Magazine, MIT's CDO IQ, and the International Society of Chief Data Officers in a series of interviews with leaders in the realm of data. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Richard Robinson, who is the Chief Strategist for Open Data and Standards. Welcome, Rich.
Hi, thanks, Tim.
Good to meet you. Hey, a quick question. What is open data and standards?
So open data and standards. So at Bloomberg, we support two open data global standards. One is the FIGI, the Financial Instrument Global Identifier. It's a standard of the Object Management Group, which is an international technology consortium, not for profit, founded in 1988. So before OMG meant something to texting people. So ended up an unfortunate acronym, but you have that. We also support the Legal Entity Identifier, which is an ISO standard. It's managed by the GLIFE, the Global LEI Foundation, and Bloomberg is an accredited local operating unit that issues LEIs on behalf of the industry.
Okay. So for those of us, so for people watching this today, why should they be interested in open data and standards?
So standards don't necessarily mean open data, but open data means open. The great thing about open data is that it comes license-free. It enables transparency and communication across the financial industry so that no matter where you are in the industry, if you're using those standards, you can share them with others and enable communication between firms, operations, regulators, and even individuals in the marketplace.
Got it. Very helpful. Thanks. So look, our audience today often, and what CDO Magazine is about chief data officers. So when you were a little boy growing up, what is it that you wanted to be, and how did you become working in the world of data and become a chief data officer?
So I don't think chief data officers even existed when my kids were born. And I've always worked with data and standards and how they impacted operational problems. So I grew up in the operations world. I've worked in the front, mid, back office and operations technology sides of firms. And I've written about how it takes a type of Renaissance person to be a chief data officer because it pulls from so many different disciplines in order to actually get that work done. The first I actually heard about the kind of role was a friend of mine. You might know him, John Bottega, became the first chief data officer in financial services at Citi. When he got the role, he described the role to me. We both almost jokingly said that it was tailor-made for us and how a lot of what we've been doing already was in that role and described. So I don't think I ever wanted to be a chief data officer growing up or involved in data and standards, but it captured my interest, and I'm here.
Well, congratulations. Sounds like destiny, actually. So this is a good background. I want folks to know that you've recently written a very interesting book that discusses the concept of applied linguistics in the financial services industry. Could you tell us more about your book, and really importantly, what is applied linguistics?
Yeah, so the book has an extremely catchy title, Understanding the Financial Industry Through Linguistics. It's a real barn burner. So applied linguistics uses linguistic techniques to solve for actual language-related problems, where linguistics may study how variation occurs in different dialects of the English language, say. Applied linguistics would focus on specific problems caused by that variation in dialect, and how to overcome those problems in real-world applications. A simple thing would be the word jumper between Queen's English and American. Right? Right. Americans are like, what are you talking about? In English, like, I need to wear my jumper, right? So the reasoning around the book was two real-world problems I saw. First, there's a misconception that is gaining traction, unfortunately, regarding the concept of a common financial language being an actual, tangible, and attainable thing within financial services. Linguistically, it's simply not realistic. Second was that there is a real world problem, which is why everybody looks towards a common financial language. But the problem is different areas of financial services that need to speak to each other speak different languages. or at least have different dialects, which results in errors, miscommunication, and other problems. So this is especially problematic for global regulators and legislators who are then sold on the false promise that common financial language will solve all their problems, instead of a more practical and attainable path of interoperability between different domains, or what's called linguistically communities of practice. So if you think in financial services, you have front, middle, back office, you have equities and fixed income and derivatives. They're all financial services, but they all speak slightly different. Same terms mean different things, and even bigger divide between like payments and securities.
Okay. So does your book solve the problem? Is it prescriptive, or is it highlighting the areas that need further collaboration?
It's not prescriptive. I think I'm giving a model base and foundation for us to better solve for the problems that we're all struggling with today. There's a lot of different pieces out there that exist, but we look at things very simplistically, and usually only from one community's perspective is trying to solve a problem that affects multiple communities. So one community solves, I describe in the book an example of villages that are combating a monster problem, right? And so when they get together, they all talk about monsters. One village comes in, they say, oh, we solved the monster problem. We used silver bullets and it killed everything, right? So all the villages adopt silver bullets as their answer. The next village to get attacked gets decimated because their actual monsters that were attacking were vampires, and the first village was werewolves. That both monsters problems, but because of language and differences that they were attacking, silver bullet didn't solve the vampire problem.
Right. So that in other words, and this relates back to linguistics, in that the data is actually tied to some perception and context of what it means, in that I think you called it an area of practice, right? So
Right.
how do you move toward greater interoperability?
So first, the foundation is recognizing that we have different communities of practice, and that the solution to the problem is not by creating Esperanto. Esperanto doesn't solve the world's language problems. It never will, right? You can't force everybody to speak the same language. Recognizing that, and there's multiple properties of language. One of the biggest is that language is constantly evolving. So you can't force and standardize a single language. You have to accept that different communities do speak differently. Once you get to that point, now you can start saying, okay, well, within this one community, I can actually standardize because that community speaks specific dialect. And once I standardize that community, I standardize a different community. We focus on interoperability, same way that we translate between human language. Because data is really just the stored language that we've created in financial services.